Johnathan, welcome to the Growth Hacking Geniuses Show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Excited to be on. I can't wait to share some valuable information. Hopefully it's valuable. But yeah, it's going to be fun, man. Let's rock and roll.
Same here. I think my excitement matches your level of excitement as well. And let's get started. So for people watching this, I'll give a bit of an intro about Johnathan, just so you know a little bit who he is, what he's done. And it's a very short intro, but then he can tell us more, of course, about his main projects and what he has going on right now. So Johnathan, how do you pronounce your last name?
Grzybowski.
Grzybowski. Gotcha.
Yeah. It's not French, but
I'm not sure if my name would be harder to pronounce, but that's for another time. So Johnathan is rogue risk taker turned entrepreneur and national thought leader in digital marketing and branding. He is the co-founder of Penji, which we're going to talk a little bit more in a minute, an unlimited graphic design service for marketing teams primarily that provides jobs and internship opportunities to Camden students and residents. So again, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Can't wait.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. That's your chance to give us a bit of background and who you are and where you came from a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I was born and raised in Northeast Philadelphia, and now I live in the beautiful city of Camden, New Jersey. And my entrepreneurship career started at the age of 14. I'd say it's like, no different than a large majority of all the other entrepreneurs that are out there doing their things. And I was just mowing lawns and mowed a lot of lawns. I'd say we got about 40 plus customers that we were mowing lawns for on a monthly basis. And I was out in the sun, heat was blazing, but no matter what time of day, no matter what happened, I was always outside. I was always there, just ready to work. And I think that my entrepreneurship career, when it started, it taught me how to have an impeccable amount of work ethic and just that never say die attitude. That allowed me to set the foundation of who I am today. And then, fast forward, I went up to my mom and I was like, hey, I'm doing some really cool stuff. I think I want to do this more full time and maybe even go in the winter seasons if possible. And she said, well, you should probably look at getting a real job. And I was like 16, 17 at the time, so I didn't necessarily know what a real job meant. But here I am listening to my mother, just like any other good son would do. And so I got a job at a company called Apple, and I worked for Apple for a couple of years. And the things I've learned at Apple was more so about the foundation of how to run a company and what does company culture look like. So in the first half of my, I'm 29 now, and I've been an entrepreneur, quote unquote, like really diving deep since 23, 24. So I have a lot of years under my belt. I know what it's like to run a business. I know what not to do. I know what to do, but I still stem a lot of the curiosity has started in my early stages of my working career. That hard work, that tenacity of mowing lawns, and then the creative aspect of always be curious from Apple. And it kind of led me to where we are today, which is 5-6 years later, a company called Penji, where we offer unlimited graphic design to marketing teams, to agencies, all at a flat monthly rate.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Penji? I mean, you briefly described it right now. Maybe tell us a little bit more how it works, and also how did you come up with the idea in the first place?
Yeah, so the idea came from two things. The first one was a romantic trip with my co-founder to Vietnam. I say romantic because it was a very unexpected romantic occurrence that happened. For example, we both very much so like the opposite sex, but however, we went ahead and we went to one of the most beautiful islands in the world called Phu Quoc, and we sat there and we were sipping on coconut, thinking, strategizing, trying to analyze what it is that we can do in order to solve a big enough issue in the marketplace. And the idea came from our trip to Vietnam. Secondly, we were asked a question several months later, and the question was, what are you doing for the community? What are you doing for your city? And we never had a proper answer. So it was the culmination of everything that I personally learned from the agency that I ran. It was a culmination of everything that he learned from his publication that he ran. And then it was the final nail in the coffin was that question of community, of what are we doing for our community, and we weren't doing anything at all. And so Penji is an incredible solution for agencies, marketing teams, and startups and small businesses to obtain unlimited graphic design, which means that they can receive logos, they can receive website design, app design, marketing materials, Instagram content, so other social media platforms. I mean, the list goes on and on. We can design anything that they need for their business, all at a flat monthly rate, and all of the communication, all of the hard parts of just going back and forth, trying to figure out what it is that works, that what it is that you need. It's all done within Penji and the platform itself. So we make it a lot easy. We make it very easy for our customers to communicate with us and to be able to receive the products that they need for their business.
So you didn't mention that it's meant for Camden businesses, but I'm assuming that you have clients that are international or in other places in the States or Canada, right?
Oh yeah, we have customers all over the world. So I want to make it clear, it's not just for Camden-based companies. So the companies that we service are all over the world. However, we have a community aspect where we only hire people from the United States that are within our city of Camden, New Jersey. But we have clients in the UK, we have clients in Canada, we have clients in Mexico, we have clients in all different facets of the United States. We're based in Camden, New Jersey. So every time we bring a new employee, they are from the United States and they're from Camden, New Jersey. So it's important for us to constantly hire people that are local to us. But it's also important to deliver the product to our customers regardless of where they're from. So we have over 200 customers and they're all scattered throughout the world.
So I don't know how big Camden is, but have you found it a bit of a challenge to find exactly the kind of talent that you wanted to get to grow the business within your city?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Yes and no. So we have the luxury of having a university very close to us, and so we also have a lot of resources. My co-founder started an economic development organization where it's trying to help revitalize the city and bring more people into the city. So we have a huge network of people and a pool of talent. But regardless of the talent, regardless of the people coming in, we don't necessarily judge people based off of their talent. We may be more people off of their dependability and their willingness to work. What are they trying to achieve in their life? Is it something greater than just making money? And if so, those are the people that we normally hire.
So you also have a podcast called The Blind Entrepreneur. What is that?
Yeah, so I interview people like yourselves, entrepreneurs that are working their asses off in order to share their story about their blindness in business. And I think one of the hardest things to do in business is to have that sense of being blind. And as you are blind, there's either a blind spot when you're focusing 100 energy and attention on this particular idea or this concept or this strategy, and so you may be neglecting other areas of the business that you just didn't even know exist. So the blind entrepreneur is listening to the stories of other people who were once blind and how they overcame it. I ask almost the same questions every single time, and the question is, what type of blind spot did you have in your business and how did you overcome it? And then the second one is, how did you achieve your first 100 customers? And I think that's such a critical piece that a lot of people don't talk about, is this like growth hacking approach. We don't talk enough about sales because, number one, we may not know enough about our company in order to actively promote it. Or we may be comfortable with the word sales itself. So the idea of the blind entrepreneur is to listen to other people, how they were able to obtain and grow their business, and then you taking nuggets of information that they give based off of their story so you can apply it to yourself and your business.
Okay, so you mentioned sales. How did you go from 0 to 200, and how many customers do you have right now?
So I think we're about 215, 216. We got a couple today, so that number may have changed. And I have to be honest, I've been really busy. I haven't even looked at the website, but it's somewhere around that, like 215. And so the thing that I want to make the most important when you're trying to grow a business is the idea of trying to do the act of doing is far greater than you waiting for the perfect process or procedure. a lot of times entrepreneurs, a lot of time business professionals have to wait for that one thing. And so the way that we were able to grow Penji to over 200 sales was creating a 100% unscalable process in the beginning. Everything we did was just us doing. We cold emailed, we did cold calling, which didn't work. So full disclaimer, it didn't work for us. It can work for you. We did cold emailing, cold outreach, people's networks, like I'm getting on your network today. We used our community. We did surveys. So there's a lot of things that we did. Was there anything of all the things that I said that you want me to expand on so that I can, really talk about how we got into the sales?
It's interesting how you started with something unscalable and you managed to scale it. So was there any trick to taking the unscalable and scaling it?
Tracking every single form of data that you could possibly imagine. That is the most important thing that we have figured out within ourselves. For the longest time, we were just kind of doing it just to do it. And that works in the very beginning. But as you're trying to scale the actual sales process, it could actually be detrimental to the success of your business, because we were asked this question from our advisor. And it was probably the single greatest question that we were ever asked. And it was, if I were to give you a dollar bill, where would you invest it? What part of the business would you invest this dollar bill? Would you be able to, would you split it up and go 50 cents here and 50 cents there? Would you go 70-30? Or would you give the whole dollar? Like, you can't split a dollar. So I'm giving you a dollar and you have to be able to know in full confidence where that dollar needs to go in order to generate tens to thousands to millions of sales, 10x if you want to really use the term. And so what we did was, every time that we got a customer, we asked them a question: how did you hear about us? Where did you hear about us? Was it a friend? What keyword did you use in order to Google us? Was it Facebook? Was it your phone? Was it your desktop? Yes, we can have this and track this data via the pixels, which we do, but we want to also be able to back the data through pixels, also through word of mouth or some type of written. We have a pop-up on our screen that comes up every time every time a prospect becomes a customer, excuse me. And so receiving that data and then putting it in a sheet, and then being able to look at the sheet and say, okay, this month we had 5 people here. This month we had 10 people from this marketing channel. And then once you are able to see the trends of where the customers are coming from, now you know where to shift your focus and your energy within your sales and your marketing at that.
So really looking at the data and analyzing what worked, what doesn't work, what channels are bringing business, what channels really didn't pan out, didn't produce any results.
Data is everything.
Gotcha. What have been your biggest failures and lessons that came from those failures in business?
There's a lot of things that are going on in today's politics and just the movements that are happening. And it's given me a lot of perspective of who I am as a male, who I am as a leader, who I am as a person, as a brother, as a friend. A lot of the things, the failures that I've had, have been centered around my own life, my own experiences. But every time that some failure has happened, I've learned from it. And over the process, I've become more self-aware. And I think that's really important. And when it comes to like a failure and a lesson, is just understanding the world around you, understanding some of the things that you say have and the effect that it has on other people, and then having that egotistical mindset. And I think a lot of times ego gets in a lot of people's way, but you need to be able to be strong enough to take away your ego, set it at the door, let it rest there, let it just chill until you're done for the day. And then you can go back home and pick it up if you really care to. But I just think for me, that aspect of like being self-aware, knowing who I'm talking to, having that idea of always being on stage and thinking that like a million people are watching, even if it's just a one-on-one conversation. That's definitely a huge lesson that I've learned. And just being able to just think to myself that you are not bigger than the company. And I think that's really important, is the company will and forever will be bigger than you. But you need to be able to get out of your own way. You need to be able to set your ego, as mentioned, by the door, and just know that the company is bigger than you, and the people that you surround yourself with, the people that you hire are there to help you achieve your dream. And so you need to be able to help them achieve theirs, regardless of the task.
What would be your top 3 pieces of advice to grow a business? So you started with something unscalable and then you grew it to something great right now. What was the process, or what would be some advice in general, perhaps, to grow a business?
Yeah. So I already hit on one, but I'm going to reiterate it. I think that I'm going to end on that because I think that's the most important. Number one, make sure your instructions are clear and specific, catered to the person and not just for yourself. I think it's easy to give somebody a job because you found out the process and you wrote the job process for yourself in order to do, because you were doing it for the longest time. But I think what you need to do is find a way to take yourself out, maybe even hire somebody to write the job descriptions or give these tasks out if you can't do it yourself, but finding a way to write down your entire process and be able to just give this to somebody that knows nothing about what it is that you do on a day-to-day, and then be able to replicate and do exactly what it is that you're doing based off of the sheet that you're giving them. I think that's number one. That's clear instructions, hands down. Number two is to be consistent. So regardless of the efforts that you do on your sales, regardless of the efforts that you do in your marketing, you need to have a consistent strategy. So if you say you're going to do something, make sure you do it and do it repeatedly. It may not be well. Like, let's be clear. It was not good in the very beginning. In fact, it was awful. But the one thing that I can say is that every single person in the company is constantly rowing the boat. We're constantly going and setting sail in order to get the sale, so to speak. But we're constantly there doing it repeatedly. And if one person isn't doing it the way that we know that we should, then we need to be able to tweak that portion of the boat, of the paddler, in order to make sure that we're all flowing the boat at the exact same speed. Yeah, I mean, and I think in that same breath, in that consistency aspect, you need to be able to hold your team accountable. Because if they're not being held accountable, then the consistency is going to be, you're going to lose consistency. So you have to make sure that everybody is held accountable and they understand the goals that they have. And that goes back to one. So number one is having clear instructions. Number two is being consistent, but holding those people accountable. And number three, as mentioned before, is finding a way to get out of your own way. You are not bigger than the organization. The organization will forever and always will be bigger than you. You just need to be able to say, I need the day. I need to be able to just sit back and analyze what's going on, and I need to analyze everything that's happening within the business, and then be able to go back at it the next day and then be the CEO again or be the co-founder again. But you need to be able to check yourself at the door and get out of your own way.
Thank you for sharing, some piece of advice here, and I'm definitely going to go back to it and ponder it and think about it, try to apply it as much as possible. What is your call to action? Would you like, a certain type of company perhaps to contact you if they're qualified, if they have a need for graphic design services? What's your general call to action for people watching this?
Yeah, I mean, if you like the stuff that I was saying, and if it's something that like speaks to you, and that's great. You can contact me directly. My social profiles are all here for you to view. We're sharing this on Facebook, so please connect with me. But when it comes to the business, if you need graphic design, if you are in need of a design resource like us, and you have a legitimate problem in finding talented type designers, and you're spending way too much time on working on design rather than focusing on your business, then head over to penji.co. Use the coupon code podcast25. So it's podcast25 at checkout, and you'll get 25% off your first month of Penji.
Very nice. Johnathan, thank you for doing this. It's been great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for everything. Really appreciate it.